Hi everyone, and welcome to How Good's Footy in Asia, AFL Asia's official podcast. I'm the co-host Matty Gale in Osaka, Japan, and joining me over in Vietnam is our other wonderful co-host and Billy Bang Bang Krang. How you going there, Bill?
Yeah, not bad, Matty. Not in the office, obviously. Able to, same as your good self, but going all right. As well as can be.
Now, just give us a little bit of an indication as to exactly where you are in relation to Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon.
Yep.
As well. Yep.
So that background noise I can't do much about. That was a truck going past. Saigon's locked down pretty heavily at the moment. It's been in lockdown for 3 months with not much impact on the cases. Now, like Australia, you can have your theories on why or why not, but it's pretty clear that Delta variant's pretty hard to get under control, given we've done such a good job for a year and a half. And we've just gone to a level above now where we're actually nobody can get out of the house. The military will bring you food and whatever you need. So there's a lot of social media photos of young army cadets standing in the tampon aisle of the supermarket. They've got people's shopping lists, and you can see the poor little bloke standing there just going, "What the hell?" So that's Saigon. I'm an hour and a half out of Saigon. I'm actually in Ba Ria, which is the same province as Vung Tau, where we play our Anzac game. That's my wife's family's hometown, I guess you could say. Things are a lot better here, where we're in a green zone, so we've got no cases. We're still not allowed to leave the house except to shop or go to the pharmacy. Everything's shut. People are just basically biding time, which is, it's far from ideal, but I think what we've seen in Saigon is you get your anti-lockdown type mentality, but the spread, even at these levels, has been that dire that you just can't imagine what would happen if we were letting it rip, so to speak. So that's it. Yeah, I'm in the countryside. Hopefully the Vietnamese People's Party officials aren't watching, but I can sneak out through a vacant block into the rice fields every afternoon and go for a jog, which obviously is incredibly fortunate. There's no exercise. It's pretty extreme in the city. You're indoors, so I'd be in a small apartment if I was still there.
I'll give you an update from Osaka. Japan itself got out to 250,200 active cases, so raised the bat for the 250K yesterday, and Osaka had a record 2,800 odd cases here yesterday, and I think we're out to about 26,000. I think this is the fifth or sixth wave, but it's gone really sharp. So I had the fortunate opportunity to hike up Mount Fuji earlier this month, and things have just gone crazy ever since. And just during the Olympics, people forget the Olympics was a really good distraction for people right across Asia, and lockdowns in certain areas of Australia. But Tokyo was actually getting 3,500 active cases a day. Whilst we're not in the realms of what was happening in India when they were getting 300 and 400,000 cases a day, it's still a worrying sign. And we've been in a better place, and we'll come out of it. And we'll tell you what, we'll appreciate things a lot more once we do, which is why we're here today, which is to talk about footy and some of the things that are happening around the region. So we'll do a bit of a wrap up of what's going on around the region. We'll give our predictions and analyse the upcoming AFL Finals series, which is going to be absolutely tremendous. And we'll also have a look at some of our previous Asian Champs memories, and also a bit of a look at one of our AFL Asia All-Stars teams that we're currently working on. So let's just kick it off. I'll give a bit of an update around the region. So Beijing actually had an inter-district showdown last week.
Matty's Wi-Fi could be struggling here. Matty, can you hear us? Whew. Just going to get Matty to leave the feed and come back. I've got his notes here, so I'll run. If we can't get him back in a minute, we'll run through them. Give Matty a minute just to log back in. In the comments, if anybody wants to give an update on your local area, we'll give that a bit of a shout out as well. Welcome to the stream, Inam. You're definitely you're getting a run in Matty's rundown. Incredible stuff on the coaches course, as I think most people have seen on the social media. Great work, mate. Trying to grab Matty, and then we'll be back underway. Hopefully, a bit better feed stability. Bear with us. Matty is just sending me a message. Let's see where he's at. We might have to start again if we can't. Okay, it's just the good old Wi-Fi on and off. I know that. Okay, here we go. The time that I personally beat the Philippines by a point. Thanks for that, Keezy. We can also talk about the time that I lost to the Philippines by a point, asking Dave O'Shea to switch to me in the back pocket. Ball sailed over my head. Somebody over my head. It's arguable whether I could have jumped. And somebody picked it up and slotted one on the siren. Of course, we got a bit of revenge the next year, which is pretty well told around our neck of the woods. But maybe Matty's about to go around the grounds. I'll update Vietnam first, where we were able to play our first ever Saigon Football League game and our first Vietnam Football League games before COVID has locked us down since July. So the Vietnam League kicked off on Anzac Day. We had 4 teams from Hanoi and 4 from Saigon, joining together as brother and sister teams, about 80 players. Welcome back, Matty. I'm now the host, and I'm talking exclusively about the 2015 Manila Cup for the next hour. No, I'm just going to run through the Vietnam stuff, and then if you could jump back into the regional update. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the first VFL games, we actually had teams like the 2-team Tigers. We are actually married to the Hun Kiem Herons on a reversible top, and we played throughout that day. Over 80 players, around robin. I can't actually remember who won in the end because of the heat exhaustion that was setting in. We also played a Reds versus Whites domestic.
Looks like Bill's gone now. Wouldn't surprise me though, with his internet. Well, we'll see what happens here. I don't even know if I'm actually on live at the moment, but Bill's gone twirling around there. I'll continue on, and hopefully we can get Bill back very shortly. So just on before we had, is he back? Let's hope so. So about the phase.
You carry on, Matty.
All right.
Yep, but you carry on.
Apologies, folks, for our internet issues at this stage. It's been a bit hickledy-pickledy, but we'll push through. So over in Beijing last weekend, they had an inter-district showdown. And we were fortunate enough that they had 34 male players, 6 females, and 8 children take part in the inter-district showdown. So this was actually between the Dongcheng Deros and I don't know if I'll get this correct, the Chaoyang Faraday. Final score is absolute snorter there, 14-7 to 14-6, a high-scoring, carnival-like atmosphere. And it's really good to see Beijing Bombers in a good space. Obviously, back in those early 2000s, they were a real strong powerhouse out of China in the Grant Keys era when he was around the place. And then going into COVID, they were really struggling, crippled with playing numbers, and they've got the old band back together and built numbers of people that are living there, as well as some Chinese. It's great to see that there's an amount of females that are out there, and maybe there's a potential AFLW team to come. Singapore Sharks have been out in force. Their under 5s and under 7s have their final training for this year, so they'll get their end of season medals as well. Hong Kong's been going gangbusters with their Auskick program as well. Hong Kong is the number 1 and Singapore's the number 2 Auskick centres in the world, which is just remarkable, Bill. Guangzhou Scorpions are on the rise. It'll be interesting to see if they get any football played there this year in the Guangdong AFL League. Hasn't been much coming out of there this year, and it's good to see. I'm not going to try and pronounce his family name, Bill, but Chen from was a Port Adelaide. We'll just go with Chen because his last name's really too difficult to pronounce. Great to see him back out there. I haven't seen Howard floating around, so wonder what he's been up to. Hong Kong, interesting, they're going to bring back the HFL for a second season this year. So they had an initial season. Second season's got some tentative dates out, yet to be confirmed, but September 18th, October 9th, the 23rd, and a grand final on October 30th. They'll also have their famous club black tie ball on November 20th. So great to see them out and about. I'd love to be able to train at Happy Valley. I went to the Sha Tin races, but didn't make it to Happy Valley. And for those that are interested, if you ever go to Hong Kong, you can only bet on course. There's 50,000 people at Sha Tin, and there's 50,000 people at Happy Valley, even though the races aren't even on, and they alternate the venues. So it's the only way you can get in and out. And the Hong Kong Jockey Club own everything, the horses, everything. All right, back to footy. Inam ul Haq has been interviewed on our podcast earlier this year, maybe even late last year. Became the first Asian-born accredited coach, AFL Level 2 coach, living in Asia. So big congratulations to Inam. He's just gone viral over in Pakistan. He's on. It was his name and everything was mentioned in an interview, or not. He wasn't interviewed, but it was announced on Pakistan TV. And yesterday we saw a post, Bill, 735 likes and 65 shares. It's just on a separate social media page. So
the great man's actually with us at the moment. He already commented hello while you were down. I mentioned that we'd get to him shortly. So hopefully a bit of his magic rubs off, and we can lift the bar on this.
So a little prayer to Allah for us, please, Inam, so we don't have any more technical issues. But Inam's been doing some magnificent work with footy over in Pakistan. It's got some women involved, and we recently saw an under-15s game being played with his Tigers FC. So hopefully they can get their national championships out. And Inam, if you can add it in the comments section, if there's been any dates booked in for the AFL Pakistan national championships, please add that in the comments section. And Bali Geckos have had their Auskick program up and running. I'm not quite sure if that's still the case. Quite often, when we've seen right across Asia, footy gets played, the training starts, and everything's getting programmed in, but then COVID restrictions get enforced again. So things can change very, very quickly. I know that in Japan, we've just had our restrictions, which is a state of emergency, no lockdown, just an 8 o'clock curfew. Will continue to September 12, and I think AFL Japan will try and launch their A-League season shortly afterwards, if that is the case. But it's looking unlikely that we'll be out of that state of emergency anytime soon. Bill, is there any footy scheduled in Vietnam, or is it just the write-off for the rest of this year?
No, well, that's what I was mentioning. We did get the first ever VFL games in on Anzac Day, and the Saigon League actually got a few games. Hanoi was kind of early to the party on the whole lockdown scene, and we were still playing in the south, and now it's kind of flipped. Hanoi is teetering on pretty good numbers, 40 to 60 cases a day. There's a chance that they would loosen restrictions and outdoor sports be possible again. Saigon's miles off at 5,000 cases yesterday. Like I said, the army are delivering food. I mean, we've given up on grand final events. I think it's early next year at best from here for footy. Vaccines being the key kind of metric that'll hopefully see things improve.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough even seeing an Asian champs come along next year. Just on further notice, out of the AFL HQ yesterday was the announcement that the AFL International Cup is being scheduled for 2023, which is a wonderful news to hear. Obviously, AFL Japan, AFL Indonesia, India and Pakistan are all previous participants in that, and we'd obviously love to see an Indo-China team down the track. Hopefully that'll come into play, and some more female teams. I know that Japan has been trying to band one together, but that's to be seen. Bill, let's go into this week's AFL Finals series. It's going to be an absolute rip snort. And before we do, I think that's probably the best round 23 besides the Sunday games that I have seen in my lifetime. It was outstanding.
Yeah. So you kind of wonder what would have happened if we had the old 2 p.m. Saturday time slot and all those games were happening at once. Just like to put it in a bit of perspective, 3 minutes out, Geelong finished top, Bulldogs finished second, Melbourne finished third, Port finished fourth, Brisbane finished fifth, and it ended up not one of those teams finished in those spots. So if it all happened together, would it have been more exciting? Or you've got to say the fact that we could watch them one after another made it.
Yeah.
I
did hear along the grapevine, I think it was on SEN, as we're leading into the weekend, that all of the EPL games are played at the same time. And
they still do that. The NFL does it too. But I feel like the spread model, when you've only got 9 games, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, pretty tough watching 10 EPL games all in a row. And doing split screens. Now, Port Adelaide and Geelong, same game last year. Port got over the line. They kept Hawkins. I think he may kick him goalless, but he kicked 4 or 5 points.
Yeah, he was spraying them everywhere. Yeah.
How do you see this one playing out from your perspective?
I mean, I had a good look at Geelong last week, and I saw a bit of everything. When they were, and you wonder how much they had the queue in the rack in that second half. When they had their ball movement going quite positively, they were pretty dynamite. And Jezza Cameron and Hawkins up front, if, you know, one of Port's biggest strengths being Aaliyah, that type of play against those guys, Melbourne have been similar where they back their system rather than really manning up. With that midfield delivering to those forwards, you could see Geelong doing a bit of damage. And then you consider the second half where they had that same old problem where they were too slow. Melbourne were coming. So what I'm trying to say, I think if Port come at them, really get them on the back foot, then I could see Port, they've been in great form too. But if Geelong get the ascendancy, control the ball, get some decent centre clearance game going, to that forward line, you would think. My tip would be the Cats after all that. I think that they did have the queue in the rack. Dangerfield, is he hurt? Was he sick? Was he simply resting because he could? I guess we'll find out on Friday.
Yeah, I understand the queue and the rack, and maybe they did put it in there early, but it was to their own detriment because they wouldn't be playing this game away in Adelaide. For me, I think at some stage Port will come from behind, but it's just a matter of if Cameron and Hawkins get off the chain, they can do all of the damage in one quarter. And sometimes we see that in finals. That do the damage early and the game's pretty even throughout the rest of the game. For me, Geelong is really missing Stewart down back. I think he's a massive weapon.
Yep.
So they've had to restructure, and I think that Lycett's a bit of a key here because Geelong's not really renowned for their ruckman. And I think it's going to be a battle in the middle. We've seen Wines and Boak in scintillating touch lately, but Dangerfield, Dangerfield and Selwood, they're at the peak of their powers, and someone like Guthrie can go under the radar. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But Geelong, I think they've got 12 players over 30. If they're ever going to win it, it has to be this year. The premiership window's pretty close to finishing for them. I think Port's really better for the run last year. They were 1 goal away from playing in a grand final. They probably would have given it a pretty good crack had they have made it. But I think you learn from those experiences. And I think if Port's as good a chance as anyone to win the flag, and if they are to do so, they have to win this game this Friday night. I'm actually going to tip them. I think Geelong will. It's going to be one of those games where they come alive in the third quarter and run over the top of them. And probably it could go either way, and I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's if you're a betting man, both teams under 15.5 points is a pretty good bet for me. Gamble responsibly, but I think it's Port's to be lost, and Geelong. They can still get to the big dance even if they lose this weekend. They showed that last year, so it's going to be a massive one. All right, let's move along to the.
Before we go on, I do think that I don't know if you can get to the big dance the long way this year, given that we might not get that bye. So I actually think if you go and play, you'll get murdered in a preliminary final against a fresh team this year. That's my especially the old legs of Geelong. So I think it's really must win footy this weekend. And like you said, you think Port, I think Cats. I think it's the closest game of the round still. It's just you need to see the games, in the first quarter to see how it'll go. But I don't really think the long way is a good option this year.
I think it'll be an edge of the seat type of game. Sydney and GWS playing their second Battle of the Bridge outside of Sydney this year. You've got to feel for those two clubs who haven't been based in Sydney. It really gets talked about as well. They've been out of Sydney for 4 months now. So, thank goodness they've both got relatively young lists. Obviously, Buddy's got his wife there at the moment, which is good. Now, it's played in the traditional Saturday afternoon time slot down in Launceston. I'm really glad that they didn't choose Hobart. That ground is really a fickle type ground where you're only, I don't know why, there's the wind that comes off the Derwent River there.
Well, it's on the water,
it's a tough game down in Hobart, but Launceston is the better of the two grounds. I'll kick off first on this one. I think GWS are the form team. Sydney have had some injury concerns lately. Callum Mills being one of them. I don't know if he'll come up. Kennedy's also very doubtful. But I've been loving seeing Buddy Franklin in form. Kicked 6 majors last weekend. And if Sydney are to win, he needs to kick at 4 or 5 at least, I think, and edge that a little bit closer. He needs 8 for the big 1,000. He'll be the only player in the rest of the AFL history to ever get there, in my belief. GWS come good at the right time, and when you've got your captain Steve Canilio that just coming back and probably used as a sub again this week, a remarkable story from the amount of players that they've lost, and this is a good thing to do with your mates. If you're sitting down and you're having a couple of quiet ones, Bill, sit down and work out the best team of players that have left GWS.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen those.
I've done it before. Yeah, and I've done Gold Coast as well. It's not so much fun with Gold Coast, but GWS. But so GWS for me, I think if GWS are to win, they'll win considerably easy. I'm tipping around 5 or 6 goals. If Sydney get up, it'll only be by a couple. Papley needs to fire up forward for Sydney to do some damage as well. interesting space. I've heard it during the week that Sydney having some salary cap issues. So pretty extraordinary given the list demographic that they have got. That they do have some issues there. But when you've got a lot of young talent and emerging talent, you sometimes got to pay a little bit to keep them there. So anyway, let's see what you think, Bill. What's your thoughts?
So they're saying, with the Sydney salary cap, that's fascinating. But they're saying that the real big squeeze is that first contract after a draft. All the top 10 guys try to get potential-based money, which you wouldn't get in your next contract. But they're like, I'm a top 10. There's clubs that aren't getting enough access to the draft and trying to speed up there. So I think that's a bit of an issue the AFL has to deal with.
Just on that, I heard that Buddy's getting. It's the final year of his contract and he's back-ended it, and I think he's on 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
So that's a big one to deal with.
Yep. My thoughts on this game. Hang on, we've got a truck. My thoughts on this game are that I'm more just watching the angst that the Giants bring. They know when they get into these situations that getting under the skin of the opposition is one of the key ways to kind of, and with the Swans having that really good young core, I can see them really trying to get niggly and turn it into a bit of a grudge match, which they all lived for. Toby Green, you can't annoy him enough because the more you go after him, the more he thrives. And his teammates have learned to sort of live in that environment. So I actually think the Swans will be good enough. I've loved watching their footy all season. I hope the conditions are good for footy because that plays back into the Swans' hands. I don't know about Mills. I do think with him, I'd be very, very confident if he's healthy. Without him, it just becomes a bit more of a toss-up. Buddy and Papley up front, they're the two most entertaining forwards in the game. So I'd love them to kick 10 goals between them. And I do want the Swans to get up. I always want the Swans to get up. So, Swans in a close one. 2 goals.
Yeah, definitely on Buddy watch, that's for sure. And hopefully you can nail a few and then they can get through to the next week. If not, we'll be back again next year with Buddy. All right. Now, Bill, this is one of your favourites. Melbourne versus Brisbane. I'll let you tee off first and get your 3 wood out, given it is your club and they haven't played finals since that they got decimated against West Coast over at Optus Stadium in 2018. Remember it like it was yesterday. They just smashed it.
Yeah, they did. So, mate, I'm absolutely terrified. I can easily justify why Melbourne go in and lose, why they choke, why the umpires will go against them as they did in the Bulldogs game a few weeks ago. There's so many ways I can see this going pear-shaped, but I've bought in. I've loved what we've done this year. I've loved what the club has done where I think you can, I know we're going to talk about coaches later, but you can compare what Carlton did with Teague and you can compare what Melbourne have done with Goodwin, which is to back him in, to back the system that they started under Roos with, and to put pieces around Goodwin rather than isolating him and letting him wither on a vine. So I feel like they've done everything right. The season, the energy that they're pulling from last week, the leadership, it's not just Gawn, it's Viney, it's Oliver, it's Petrarca, it's May, it's Lever, it's even Brown, buying in now up forward. McDonald, what he's done, he was definitely on the outer last year and it's been outstanding. So I'll tip Melbourne. I think the players are good enough. I think the lines are outstanding. Their midfield's been playing great. The forward line has almost become more dynamic as it's lost pieces because it's forced Cameron and Danaher to step up and continue stepping up. But I think Melbourne have been good enough across every line throughout the year. They obviously finished first. I think they gather how important this is, how do or die it is. They've been able to turn games around throughout the year. The games they've lost have been no games meaningless, but they have been the less crucial games. So, God, I really think that they're going to show up and get it done on Saturday night, but I'm terrified.
Yeah, you got every reason to be terrified. And just the big G tip for you. Last time Melbourne won a premiership was 1964.
That's
Where
right.
was the Olympics? Tokyo.
Tokyo.
This year's Olympics, Tokyo. So 2021, it's the Omen bet. But I really like Melbourne. Just so consistent across every line and big match winners. If you try and plug down Oliver Petrarca or Bob Up, and vice versa. Max Gawn is the key to the final series. I think if he has a massive final series, Melbourne will go all the way. I like what you said before about the coaches. So there's been a lot of talk about Choco Williams coming in the role he's played, but don't underplay or undersell Adamuze. Senior coach in waiting, didn't get the Crows gig, but he's one of the key reasons. And having knowledgeable and educated coaches back in their club system, I think is really important. I think that's where someone like Sam Mitchell actually thrived, that he's gone away to another club. He's going to come back. And obviously Pendlebury's mentioned that during the week that he'd like to do the same. Tied himself in a bit of a knot during the same process, but he'll do that as well. And he'll be a brilliant coach. He'll be another Nathan Buckley type coach, career coach. Let's look at this game, Melbourne. I think it's going to be a fascinating battle, and I think it's going to be either Melbourne wins handsomely or Brisbane gets up by a couple. Again, it's a battle of the midfield. I just think they got too much depth in the midfield, Melbourne.
Yeah. Geez, Brisbane bat deep too, though.
Yeah, they bat really deep too. And Danaher is going to have to kick. Danaher and Cameron are going to have to kick.
Well, this is the
bags.
thing. Yeah. And Melbourne typically, except for 10 minutes, don't let people off the leash. So Brisbane need to get off the leash. And if anyone's going to keep them on the leash, I'd back that Melbourne system. And it's not just May and Lever. It's players like Petty who come in and do the lockdown job while Lever and May get to hold their zones. And it's Salem who gets the ball in his hands. And so, the Lions need to get off the chain, and I would hope we can keep them on the chain.
Now, big stat for you, Bill. Jake Lever, only player in AFL history to average more than 4 intercept marks per game for the season.
Yeah.
Highest
Incredible.
I think you're getting your value for money from him. Like, you came in the first year, didn't deliver, then did his knee. Yeah. So, he's actually the player that the Crows drafted. And Crows drafted him, I reckon, around pick 13. Yeah. But he was touted as a potential number 1 draft pick, and you can see why he's playing that type of footy now. So I actually think the keys, as much as it is the midfield, it's the playmakers down back.
Yep.
They're so attacking from down back.
You have a look at Geelong last week when they were pushing against Melbourne. If you watch that last quarterback, which I had to go and do on the Sunday, Lever was the one that, Geelong were going too slow, but he was the one that got his hands on every single foray when we set up that wall and made the attack. So, like I said, Brisbane need to really be dynamic up forward. And if he can get his hands on it, he's going to make it incredibly hard. And, he's been fantastic. He's got to intercept mark because he does struggle in a lot of other areas. He's not athletically gifted. He's not a brilliant long kick, as we saw the other day. Everybody knew he wasn't having a shot from on the 50. And the fact that that's his one wood. He doesn't have too many other clubs, but he pulls it out and he gets on the end of so many dangerous forward attacks.
Just on the just before we move on to the next game, one thing that you did do from 2018 and 2019 is you went backwards very, very quickly. But it did allow you to get Luke Jackson and Cozzy Pickett. Smart drafting. And tell you what, Luke Jackson is about to take that competition by storm. Wait until he's got 4 or 5 pre-seasons under his belt. It's going to be huge. And he's a very exciting talent. Let's move on to the Western Bulldogs and Essendon game. I'll kick off here. Now, Western Bulldogs have lost their last 3. They look the most fragile team going into the final series. Locked away a top 4 spot and then just, went belly up. Biggest problem for the Western Bulldogs is losing their big man up forward. Went down with a knee injury a couple of weeks ago. Just waiting for the truck.
I'll try and mute when they're coming.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It adds a bit of character to the conversation, Bill. Yeah, but losing Bruce 3 weeks ago, which coincided with them going down the gurgler a little bit, has been a massive one for them. They've got troubles up forward. They're batting really deep in the midfield, but since the inclusions of Treloar and who's the other one?
And Dunkley.
Yeah, Treloar and Dunkley, it's just thrown their midfield out.
Hasn't worked. Bizarre.
Hasn't worked. Yeah, and Treloar, and I've spoken to a lot of Collingwood supporters, and they were sort of glad in a way that he went because he burns the ball. So I actually had the microscope on him quite a bit. He does it. His kicking percentage is actually quite low for a bloke of his calibre. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this one pans out. I'd love to see Jakey Stringer go nuts in this final series because he's probably the most exciting talent, in-form player at the moment. And he's had pretty much if he got All-Australian, I don't know what year that was, but he's in better form than what he was in that year. Yep. So I think he holds the key. Darcy Parish has gone off the boil a little bit lately, but I think he's capable of getting, since Shields come back in, has changed his role. So,
well, I also think he's had a lot more heat go to him in games, and he probably hasn't been a young fella. He hasn't figured his way through it yet. It's normally when somebody's watching him closely, but I feel like you could almost correlate Parish's struggles to Stringer's success. So what's happening is they're clamping heavily on one guy, which always opens the door to the rest of that midfield. And so, Stringers, they've got to choose who they're going to go to. I think Parish gets the ball again as soon as Stringer gets tagged. But then who do you want to have the ball? Obviously, Stringer can kick a goal from anywhere within 70 metres. So that's pretty hard to live with as an opposition.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will tag Merritt. He's an accumulator like Tom. Yeah. He doesn't really damage you too much.
Yep.
Now, we said before that the Bulldogs are pretty fragile, but if any team that was in the top 8 had this type of fragility, I think anyone that could bounce back from it is the Western Bulldogs. We saw when they come from, I think, 7th or 8th against West Coast, and they just run the gauntlet in 2016.
Yeah.
That the benefit was, though, they had that bye round. It was the first ever bye leading into the finals, and they got 5 players back from injuries. They don't get the benefit of this time around.
Yep.
Essendon haven't won a final since 2004. My first VFL team that I went for was actually Essendon. Watched them win the 1984 grand final. I do remember the 82 grand final. Getting a slush puppy at half time. I remember it vividly, and then seeing the girl come out and do the streak run. So I've got memories as a 4-year-old, but it was only of the slush puppy and the streaker. But I actually remember watching that game in '84, and I was devastated when Collingwood beat us in 1990. So I've always had a soft spot for Essendon. I think they'll get that first finals victory in 17 seasons, and good luck to them. I don't think they'll go past the first week, though, but it's a great result for Truck Rutten. I was speaking to Simon Highfield, our AFL Asia development manager, during the week, and we went back to his first press conference, and he didn't come across as a guy who knew what he's doing, but he's had an outstanding rookie season as a coach. So well done to him, and good luck to all of the teams. Bill, what's your thoughts on this game?
Yes, so I don't really know how or why, but I feel like the Bulldogs have come too far to go down like that. I know that Beveridge he's got a bit of bastard about him. He'll find a way to get him up and get through this. But having said that, Essendon did it a few weeks ago. The Dogs have just not been able to find a way off the ropes for the last month. They've lost that connection. Bringing back Dunkley and Treloar. You say Treloar can murder the ball a bit, but his form for the Dogs was legitimate early this season. He was definitely playing well, and we just haven't seen it since they've come back. So somehow I'm just talking myself out of it, but I do believe that they find a way to get it done this week. Essendon have generally those real high energy kind of coming from the cloud streaks don't sustain themselves in September. The Bulldogs have been probably the biggest example of that not coming true. But in general, you come in with this kind of coming from nowhere, it's too hard to sustain. I feel like the Dogs get it done, but I wouldn't be confident about them getting through too many more games after that, similar to what you said with the Dons. So, yeah, I'll go Footscray.
Footscray, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think Essendon's got a free hit here. And
they do.
They probably needed to come up against different teams because I think both of them could have gone through, but obviously only one will. All right, we were going to rank the finals, but we've burned a fair bit of the time clock, so I'm pretty
that's all right.
of that. So we'll move along. Who's been the most underwhelming team for you this year?
Okay, I got 3, so it's going to make it hard for you to get around me. But Tigers, obviously, the biggest drop-off since, I did know this. I'd say probably since Adelaide 2018, and then we know how that panned out. The Blues, best footy, looked great, and the fact that the young talent is, I agree with Dave Teague that the young talent has come on incredibly. Walsh, Mackay, Wiedering, even Jones picked up his game a lot, and they had good periods in so many games, and then to just consistently drop games with it was really nothing more than a lack of effort. And obviously the Eagles, they looked pretty normal. They did what they always do for the first half of the year, and it took that long for them to fall out of the 8. But when it finally came to it, they just couldn't fire a shot. They'd be my 3 underwhelming performances of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. All of those 3 plus St Kilda. I think they're
true. Pre-season expectations versus what they turned in.
Maybe a case of drinking your own bathwater too much down at Moorabbin. I think they got a bit too far ahead of themselves, and now they've gone back on their comments and said, we're more focused on 2022, 2023. But when you make finals, and they probably overachieved in all honesty last year, and then they're actually at where they're actually meant to be now. I think that's probably more to the case. But West Coast probably got the best list of high-end talent of any club in the AFL. They obviously lack... just let that one go through the keeper. I think they lack some depth in their list. They've got a lot of high-end talent, and they've burnt some draft picks there to get Kelly in. So if you think, you've got two first rounders, and I think maybe a second, they've given up. They need to replenish that list, and whether they go down the line of trading a Nick Nat or someone of like a bigger calibre, they may need to. So I think they can replenish the list and come back maybe in 2 years' time, have a bit of a run of it. But Kennedy wouldn't think he's got too many years left in him. Shuey's hamstrung. He's just he's got to change his body shape. He hasn't done much since he's been captain. So, I'm not really thinking too far ahead with Richmond. I think the end of the year that's it. They're done. I can't see them hanging around much longer. Jack Rewalt probably got another year or two. Yeah, I think they're finished. You're on mute.
Prestia short. They're going to go get 2-3 draft picks and maybe turn one of them into a trade. I feel like Richmond can go again. I don't think they've lost much. I just think 4 years in a row going last week or second last week of September basically takes out the first half of your preseason each year. It just adds up. And when they went to the tank this year to kind of pull it out again, it just wasn't there. I still think the quality is there. I don't know. Yeah, let's see. I like you were saying, St Kilda, I don't know whether they've really set up for next year or not, because their recruitment to me kind of, and it's been the same for the last 3 years, has been almost like they're recruiting for next year and last year. Like they get people like Hanbury in, and then they go and build kids. I don't know if they're ever going to get it all on the same page. So who knows?
Anything from the pavilion, from the AFL Asia family built before?
Not a bit. One of the interesting okay, is back to their comfort zone of ninth. I don't know if they actually finished ninth, but they sat ninth at one stage. But yeah, they did. I think they were ninth on points, so they can take some comfort from that. AFL PNG has got the season going, which is fantastic news.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that popped up a while ago on the Marooks actual Facebook page. Now, I wonder if we can get some updates in the social media for next week from that. Maddie, see if some photos and some scores. So that's great to see. A bit more footy happening around the region.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. Good to hear. Good to hear from Kero too. Great mate of ours, president of Vietnam Swans. So yeah, we'll get something out there about PNG in the coming days, and we'll probably lock it in for next week once we get some information. All right.
Probably could be mentioned that Kero, it was mentioned on the Swannies podcast, I think. So I've had 3 trucks in a row there. Kero was able to lose his bet with Jakey Norris on the Crows versus Roos wooden spoon. So being a Kangaroos man, he's now lost that bet and he's booked in to Ninja Ink Tattoos, I think, to get Jakey's face tattooed on his rear end. Might as well give it.
I'm glad it's his face, because I was going to say on a Facebook post, just give him a bit of a niggle. Welcome to the Crows, Kero. We'll always have a special place in your heart. I mean your ass, but he's got Jakey's head instead.
Yeah.
One of the couple of great characters there, and shout out to Jakey Norris. We thought he was on fire at the Olympics. Geez, I tell you what, he started on fire with the Paralympics as well. He's called every battle out. And, yeah, very passionate young man, and he'll mention a little bit later in our AFL All-Stars team that we're putting together with a bit of fascination. So, Bill, who's punched above their weight this season, do you feel? I feel like Melbourne have, but in essence, we've seen Richmond do this as well in the past.
Yep.
We can make a massive jump. For me, Sydney's punching above their weight. I think that's the clear one.
Yep.
There.
And probably Essendon have taken the window and gone a year ahead of their trajectory. I think, Melbourne, it's obviously, you look at where they've been for the last 2 years, but perhaps it was always going to happen that way, and it's just how it's panned out. Taken them a bit longer to get it together. But yeah, it's definitely, no one was putting them top of the ladder pre-season.
No, but if you look at Melbourne 2018, this is where they should be now. If you disregard 2019, 2020, it's pretty much where they should have been. So I've got no qualms with it, but I just think Sydney and Exeter, they've gone a little bit ahead. All right, now Brownlow predictions. Who's going to Brownlow this year?
Oh, obviously, I'm going to say Clayton Oliver. I do think his last 4 rounds get close to 12 votes, and he had plenty earlier in the year. I'm pretty aware that he goes up against Petrarca, and inevitably that's going to cost him. I feel like Bont, similarly, has his pocket picked by McRae quite a bit. From what people in the know have told me, typically when Wines was on, he gets the votes over Boak. And that might be enough to get it for him. And then there's Steele and Touk Miller who have very little competition and probably have their 8 or 9 best on ground games. Definitely. The thing with Miller would be, is he able to get votes when the Suns get smashed? And yeah, Steele probably a bit similar, but typically, if Saints won, it was probably off Steele's bat. So let's see. I'm going to say Wines.
Yeah, I think Ollie Wines. Both, it's going to be 3 2s, but in that order, I think Petrarca and Oliver take plays off his brother. And Bontempelli's really dropped away in the second half of the year. You'll find at the halfway mark before the pre-buys, he would be in front of the voting by 5 to 7. Tell you a little story about myself. I'll get the trumpet out for a minute, Bill.
Yeah.
Talk about Touk Miller.
He's actually suspended. Kero's actually pointed that out. Put me in my place. But that's correct. I don't actually care. I think that suspension's an out of date. especially when you look at how the tribunal operates, the rhyme or reason that lacks. So carry on. Sorry, mate. Just thought I'd update, correct myself.
No, that's good. I'm glad Kero pointed it out. I was going to get.
He does come in handy every other. Carry on.
Yeah, I was going to get my trumpet out and compare Took Miller to the season I had in 2003 where I got runner-up.
Let's hear it.
Medal. Well, our team won 5.5 games out of 17. And I managed to... I was the runner-up in the male medal that year, and I was actually leading going into the final round, and they told me I was a chance, and I actually had a shocker, had a Barry Crocker in the last game, and the other guy was 2 umpire system, so he got I was 5 in front, and then he got 2 best ons from the umpires in that final game. So I lost, I think it was 40-41. So, yeah, I think Took Miller, showing that Gary Ablett, I think the year that he won with the Suns, they were no good. So you can get it, but you're more likely to get your 2s if you're in a losing team. I think Jack Steele is a standout. Has he got enough 3s? He's probably been the best captain this year, just about. Not that he's had to lead that team from the front, and he's grown into one of the best in the league. But yeah, I think Ollie Wines for me. Ollie Wines. Port Adelaide have never had a Brownlow medalist before, so there's your big tip from that. Yep. All right.
It checks out.
Been a massive day in AFL footy circles with the announcement today that David Teague was going to get the sack. Who's going to coach Carlton? Is it Ross Lyon? I think he's $1.2, isn't he?
Yeah, it is. Only because of what Carlton have done and whether they got cold feet on him in the last 3 days, which is just incredible anyway. After 4 months of spiralling towards this, and then someone at the other end of this infamous boardroom saying, hang on, he had some issues at his last club. Oh, you come up with this now? They are a basket case. I think they get what they deserve. I'm a bit, I'm not a Blues man by any means. I'm disappointed all their young talent signed up through this year. So the list manager's obviously done a good job. I think they deserve to be put back in their box for another 5-6 years, which obviously they get put back in their box every 6 years anyway, one way or another. I really feel for the way they treated Teague. I think, you're reviewing. You're continuously reviewing. Have a look at yourselves, because that's where it starts and ends. These are all the people that you're hiring and putting into a position. If they're not doing the position to your satisfaction, you've got to wonder why. And I just think they don't do that. They're full of themselves. They feel like they're the most powerful club, and they probably were 30, 40 years ago. Basket case. Really sad the way they treated Teague. Teague seems like a great bloke. There's no doubt that the system was lacking, and when it fell over, it really fell over. But Melbourne were no different. Like I said, I was bemoaning the same thing watching Melbourne for the last 2 seasons. And they just brought in quality people bit by bit to back the path that they were on. And here we sit now. Hopefully we're getting there.
I'll tell you my story timeline of the Carlton Football Club. So the past week they've come out and said, we're going to make an announcement. So everyone expected it to be Monday or Tuesday. They come out and said, we're going to do it in a week's time. We've got to go through the findings. They had the findings there. They gave themselves a week because they gave Clarkson a week. All right. So that was what they wanted to do. We'll give Clarkson comes out yesterday through his manager. He's off the table. So the next day, Carlton comes out and makes the announcement. That's the timeline. Ross Lyon's obviously the one there, but they're an absolute basket case. You're right.
So hang on. With that timeline, though, there's no logic in that. They could have fired him Sunday, Monday, regardless, because Clarkson said no, and then they've still pulled the trigger. So what were they actually thinking? I don't get it. The media had said that the media's been one good thing about the whole basket, whole schmozzle has been the media's been bang on, and that's because the media is as good as sitting at those boardroom meetings, because there is so much backstabbing and self-preservation and all that happening. So they are getting literally. I think they're getting almost tapes of these discussions delivered straight to the Ages staff room.
Now, the tough one to pick is the new Collingwood coach. Who coaches Collingwood?
I don't know. I'm not going to comment.
My coach, I think, is I think Don Pike's on the record saying he's off the table. He's not going to go for it. But I think Craig McRae will get it.
That's the bookies. I can only say that because I'm watching the odds, and I assume there's a bit behind it.
Who else is in the upper echelon of the betting?
Oh, I'd have to get it up, but it's all falling away. So
Craig McRae's he's coached his own team. He coached the Richmond VFL team to Premiership in the famous Marlon Pickett back to VFL Premiership, AFL Premiership year. So to go and coach your own team but win a Premiership, highly regarded. He's actually spent some time at the Melbourne Storm as well as part of his
kicking coach. I saw that.
Yeah, part of his coaching pedigree. So he's done a lot in his time.
So have most. Any good assistant coach in a good team's general. I'll tell you who the second and third come off the rank are these days. Adam Kingsley's number 2, Jamie Graham's number 3, and then it gets back to Voss, Harvey, Uze, Lyon, Malthouse is there. Eddie Maguire's 51-1. I wouldn't rule him out.
All right. Now, AFL Asia, we all know that it's never going to happen, and obviously we've cancelled our Asian champs. Yeah, good work, Timmy P. The Sullivan Beach Lions.
And Kero's fixed, so Touk Miller can get through to the qualification next year. He's going to change his surname to Selwood. Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, good one. You and I, I'm glad Kero's actually here with us. He's one actually floated this idea. We're going to run with it.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
We're going to put it out on our socials. We're going to have the AFL Asia Receding Hairline All-Star Team. So we've got a post ready to go. We're going to put that up on our socials shortly. And what you'll be required to do is to nominate your player in the comment section, send a photo with their mug, who they play for, which club or clubs they play for, with positions, because we want to structure up a team in actual positions. Now, Rooster is an automatic selection. Benny Giles, automatic selection. Hip is an automatic selection. Do you have anyone that you would like to nominate before it goes viral?
Well, unfortunately, I guess the Swans are pretty fertile breeding ground for this particular talent field. So I've got a photo I'll submit that shows our current centre half forward, Big Jono, and our current centre in Shawnee Milner playing late last year, and they're both well and truly in the running. But we've got Big Jimmy Warland obviously up in Hanoi as well. You're saying Jakey Norris, which I need. Yeah. So I'll have to go and have a look at that. You're just cutting out a bit there, but yeah. Sorry, mate, losing you there. Is there anything you can do to the internet again? Yeah, only just. The word out of the north is that he's already made it. He's clear cut, and obviously Toddy Donovan be playing forward flank in that team. I'd suggest too. 1 minute, we'll get Matty to reset his internet. I've got his agenda here. Let's see. We were going to do a tribal talks with Matty Gale. So if he returns, we'll put the big fella on the spot. Happy to take a few questions from the peanut gallery, Kero, if you want to throw a few in. Tribal Talks typically covers things like the best players he's seen, 3 things people wouldn't know, people he'd invite to a dinner party. So it's not really putting him out of his comfort zone enough for my liking. So if you've got any questions you want to shoot through, we can surprise the big fella. Lockie Stark running water, doing a knee in the second quarter, so we'd have to have a backup there. If Matty can't get back on, we'll call it quits at this stage, and we'll save his tribal talks for another date. Give him another second or so. Yes, Kara. Questions about Matt Gale. He's going to do the tribal talks. He will be the subject. I'll fire the questions, and we can take them from the comments here. So anything you'd like to see him answer off the cuff with no time to prepare and nowhere to hide, assuming his internet's up to it, then go for it. Here he is. He's just entered the room. Let's give him one more chance. Osaka's most questionable.
Normally you running on 3G, Bill. Not
yeah,
me.
Well, out here in the rice fields, we've got our shit together, it seems.
All right, so we're going to put that out on our socials. AFL Asia's receiving hairline All-Star Team. All right, and we're going to get those nominations in. They have to be in by midnight Sunday night. We'll announce the team early next week. Fascinating one. We might do some other All-Star teams as we move along. Maybe even look at the best ever team that's been involved at Asian Champs. They have to qualify for more than 1 year, I would have thought, Bill, if we'd go down that path. But,
maybe having been resident in a country for a little while. So, unfortunately, that Warriors one-time winning team might struggle. sorry.
Indonesia.
That's true.
Now, is there anything from the pavilion? Because we need to get to tribal talks really quickly.
Well, this is it. I've asked the pavilion to also contribute to tribal talks while you were unawares. Right. So there might be a few. We'll see how they go. We've touched off a few of the tribal talk. The pavilion's nominations for the team of the century. So jump straight into it, Matty. I think you can still introduce the segment, and then I'll take over.
Okay, so we'd like to thank David Lake at Tribal Sport, AFL Asia's official apparel provider. And Blake has done a magnificent job there for all your apparel needs, but not only this season, for 2022. Get in touch with David Lake and the team at Tribal Sport. Tribal Sport, friendly fire round. Bill, kick us off.
Okay, you might be wondering who the guest is this week, given there's normally somebody squashed between our two heads. But taking the chance this week to do something different and put none other than Big Matty Gale on the couch. The good thing is you've seen enough people put on the spot that there's no excuses for you not to be able to take the friendly fire and fire right back. So let's see how you go. The first one, nicknames.
Big G, MG, G Banger, Matty G.
Yeah.
Probably about it, yeah.
And this could take us down a bit of a tunnel, but so the clubs that you have played for.
Yeah, so I started out with Central Weiler under 10s. Didn't get a run in the unofficial grand finals, so I changed clubs to South Weiler Demons. Down at Beach Road Weiler. So I had played there from 9 to 17. Then went to Woodwest Torrens Eagles from the age of 17 to 22. Brought Mundura from 23 to 30. Port Bulldogs. Actually, wear the same Guernsey as the Port Magpies, but a dark green and white version. Okay. Had 3 years there trying to chase the premiership. Got runner-up and a wooden spoon there. And then retired for a year and had my own sports radio show and was doing commentary with Trax FM. And then lobbed over to Japan for an 8-month working holiday. And basically told him I'm coaching from the first training I took over. So I've been at the Osaka Dingoes for, I don't know, I guess the last 9 years. We had a couple of dormant years. So after we got married, I stepped away for a year because I wanted to travel, and we got left out of the AFL Japan Top League. So we've managed to repair the relationship there. But yeah, I've loved my footy, particularly AFL Asia. Been brilliant.
Yep, I think we've all got that. Now, playing in Asia, we've covered that. So this is a bit of a null question as well, but who knows? You might have a closet dream to be a glorified fullback that you've just never been able to realise. What's your favourite position?
Favourite position is actually ruck, Bill.
Yeah, I did think that might pop up.
Yeah, I love playing in the ruck because you're essentially another on-baller. If you're agile enough, and I was pretty agile as a big man. Probably done a lot of damage in the forward line. So I love full forward. It's probably where only plays I can really play nowadays. I did play in the ruck last year, given I'm pretty fit at the moment. But much prefer full forward nowadays.
Yep. Kero was disappointed that you missed the Yangshu Beerfish. So he's wants
well, when you go out on the town until 4 a.m. and you rock up and play at a Shanghai Cup, and you forget that you even won enough games to make the finals, it's a pretty big indicator that you were a little bit under the weather while you were playing. So didn't show my best showing, and I think what Kero's referring to is he put one down my throat, and I muffed it. So great playing with Kero and Keezy and all the young
guys.
Brilliant.
I've still got a Beerfish jumper in my closet in Saigon. Hopefully I'll get back to my closet one day and I can stop wearing the same 3 singlets over and over. What's your favourite number?
26.
Any reason?
I was given the number at Woodville West Torrens Eagles in under 19s, won a premiership with it, and then wore it when I got to Port. I don't know whether that just happened to be available, but I went with it at Broughton Mundura, probably my favourite club, and used it there. Went from 41 to 26 here when I got the opportunity.
AFL team?
Funny one. Started out with Essendon in the VFL, went for the Port Adelaide Magpies, started playing against them, learnt to hate them, went to the first ever Crows game. So I've got a bit of everything in me. I'll be wearing a Port hat this final series, and I'll be keen on Essendon, but I do go for the Crows every week. I'll watch all the Power and Crows games, but Crows is probably my go-to.
Typical shallow Crows fan. Best, and we won't talk about your full forward. Best player you've seen in AFL Asia. Now this is exciting because you've probably had a better view than anybody, given you're often umpiring and the attention that you pay. So it's not an easy question.
No.
On the spot.
No, it's not an easy question. Pound for pound, I think Evan Spargo is the best player I've seen. I don't know the names of the Papua New Guinean players to single one out. And for those at PNG, when I was umpiring those games, it was like umpiring the Harlem Globetrotters, honestly. It was just unbelievable. To see even the guys out of the Irish players that have come across, to see how they've blended into the game, it's been really good. But probably Michiko Sakaki is one player that's never played at Asian Champs. He's best Asian-born footballer. But pound for pound, Evan Spargo. Just my first Asian Champs, 2013. He was just taking hangers on everyone's head. He ripped apart the 2016 Asian Champs as well. And just seeing him firsthand as coach and as managing the AFL Asia Lions and his leadership, he's outstanding.
Yep. And name your best teammates.
Best teammates. Probably the most highest profile player was when I was the captain of the Wood West Torrens Eagles in 1997. Anzac Day against Sturt. I was the captain of Matthew Pavlich. So prolific players. He's the number one. Wow. I'd have to give little Yoshi Imagawa a bit of a run.
Yep.
The little tip rat. He's probably my favourite and most disliked at the same time. Kero was a pretty good teammate. Yeah, I love Kero.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that.
So, favourite teammate's probably Andrew Crow, who played at the West Torrens Eagles. He went on to play with the Crows and now is the manager of the Eagles.
Yeah, okay.
He's the basically at Brisbane Lions nowadays. So, yeah, lots of good players. And I was fortunate enough to play against players from every state and territory in Australia. So that was good.
This one, you might just reel out the same set of answers. Most annoying teammates?
Yoshi. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, more ways than one.
Yep. Most difficult opponents?
Yeah, good one. Peter Knight's son. I played on him a couple of times in under 19s, and he got off the chain in a grand final against me, and it sort of gives me a bit of a bad memory. But a guy called Mark Fuller played with Port Adelaide. We had some massive battles in the Northern Areas Football Association.
Yeah, okay.
In the ruck. So he was great and good mate too. So he's probably the toughest.
Okay. Now, this will be another fascinating one. What's your favourite AFL Asia memory?
Well, I worked out. I've been on 9 football trips, 3 to China, a couple to Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines. I still think this Asian Champs is my favourite one. I love the Vietnamese culture, and the fact that I ate 16 banh mi's in 4.5 days tells you that I really like Vietnam. Now, I love Vietnam. It's the whole connection with the war, the people.
Yeah.
I still rate it as the best hosted Asian Champs we've ever had. And we've had some crackers in recent times. Malaysia was really, really good. But, yeah, the Vietnam one stood out. And I just remember meeting Carol in the market there on the Friday. And, just loved it. If I could live somewhere else in Asia, I'd live in Vietnam.
So you've had to walk 20 kilometres a day and up Mount Fuji just to get over the banh mi's that you ate in 2016. That hat has been outstanding though, hasn't it? Bit of a shame I don't have one. I don't know where it ended up.
I think these were given out in a gift bag, weren't they?
Yeah, and they're still doing the rounds. The amount of
dropped out again.
No, you're fine. You there? You're coming through loud and clear. Don't do anything stupid.
Nah, I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just saying the amount of those hats that still pop up in the round the grounds photos and things like that. That hat really has stood the test of time.
I think that these were given back then.
It was a welcome
every
pack.
player had a gift bag, and they had one of these in there.
Yeah, so the gift bag was sponsored by Vietnam Backpacker Hostels, one of our incredible sponsors over quite a long time. And in hindsight, we really should have got the sponsorship onto the hat because that's where all the mileage has been. That hat has been seen at every AFL Asia footy training for 5 years since.
I've seen Winter Santos floating around with one not long ago.
All of them. You see a Cambodian training, all the bald blokes will be wearing them. Maybe the bald team of the century need a hat sponsor next year. What's your favourite meal?
I love a good steak, Bill, but the price of it here is disgusting. But if it was Japan's food, tonkotsu ramen, without doubt.
Can you translate that for?
Tonkotsu ramen's a pork bone broth noodle soup. 1,200 calories in one bowl of just the delicious food. Yeah, beautiful.
Yep. I remember you taking us for ramen that night. Incredible.
Yep, certainly did.
What's your favourite holiday destination? You might have just covered that.
I reckon Hoi An.
Yeah.
Vietnam. That was outstanding. I could move there. That was really good for Carol's wedding. Yeah.
Yep. Now, what would be 3 things that people don't know about you?
One, I won a mascot race on Adelaide Oval. So there was the slowdown at Adelaide Oval, and they were missing. They needed some extra people to go on the event, and I was actually the Nord Redleg. And I thought I had a choice out of Nord, I think the Panther from South Adelaide and the West Adelaide Blood. And I thought this guy's probably got the easiest suit to win it in. So I won the mascot sprint on Adelaide Oval in the showdown. I was actually the lead singer of the Adelaide Crows band, Bill. So,
What?
I was the lead singer. I had Andrew Crowell, the guitarist. Ian Perry was another guitarist. Crowley's brother was another guitarist. And Matty Robin was the drummer.
Wow.
Yeah. And one more. Oh, gee. I actually prepared for this, so I should know a bit better. But
yeah. You've seen this happen enough times.
I'm ambidextrous. Probably don't know that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
So I'm left-handed, but I play basketball right-handed. I shoot right-handed and tennis right-handed. So probably something that people wouldn't know. It's not really fascinating, but it's part of it.
Yep. Well, now they know. Now, if you could invite any 4 people to a dinner party, who would they be?
Kero. I'd bring Kero. Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Tough one. We'll go Roger Federer.
Yep.
And we need someone to sing. So I might get the lead singer of Powderfinger, my favourite band.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'd say Kero's going to kick him off the mic straight away anyway. And so Bernard Fanning, isn't it? Yeah,
Bernard
so
Fanning,
he won't come in too handy once your Kero takes over. Okay, well that's all we've got for the tribal talks, friendly fire rounds.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so thank you very much to Tribal Sport for their support with the AFL Asia official provider of our of our sporting apparel. So if you're looking for some uniforms for next year or even this year, get in touch with Lakey and the crew at Tribal Sport. Bill, it's been magnificent talking. We've gone overtime today, but given that people are in lockdown, it's good for them, it's good for you, it's good to chew the fat and get back into it. We'll have Simon Highfield on board for our next podcast. So Simon has tried to avoid us
he sure has
for the last year and a half, but I've managed to get him on board for our next one. So I think we're October 8th sort of rings a bell around Wednesday that week. So we'll get him on board. But more importantly, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to your AFL Asia Receding Hairline All-Star Team nominations. We'll get that out on our Facebook page shortly. But signing off, Billy Bang Bang Krang and Matty Gale, thanks for joining us for How Good's Footy in Asia.